Welcome to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel Jackson. And in this space, we do life together, we grow together, and we heal together. And sometimes that leads to a change of heart. Hey everyone, welcome back to A Change of Heart podcast. We're back. We are back for season 5, and I'm so excited to start this season. This season truly is near and dear to my heart. It really is a personal journey, but it's also a journey that we're going to be on together. And I'm really excited about this season and just how everything is going to unfold over the next couple of weeks. So we are back for it. But before we get into today's topic, I do want to let you all know some things have changed, okay? Some things may be a little bit different from the previous seasons, and so I want to give you all a little bit of insight as to what you can expect going into season 5. So for starters, if you are watching this on my YouTube channel, then you can see that you are actually watching me. I know in the last couple of seasons, I've been uploading audio only, but this season we're doing video. I'm going to commit to doing videos for the episodes, and so you will actually have a visual once again. Also, as you all can see, our little cover art got a facelift. We have a little bit of change for A Change of Heart. And I just felt like it was time. I felt like it was time to bring a little bit more of a maturity to the podcast, and not just in the sense of what we're talking about, but also just the overall look. I love the blush. It was cute. It served a purpose for a moment, but I just felt like it was time to elevate it. It was time to step into our more mature version of ourselves. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a facelift that has taken place with the graphics, and I truly just love it. So along with that, as you can see by the intro, as well as the graphics, and if you listen to the last episode of season 4, then you know that I got married. And so we also have a new last name. So as you all are listening to the podcast, and if you did not know that I got married and you're like, who is Angel Jackson? It's still me, okay? So that is the new last name. So that is a little bit of a change as well. And then last, but certainly not least, y'all know in season 4, I was going back and forth on whether or not I wanted to do the question of the day. And what I decided is we're not doing her no more. I liked doing it initially. I felt like it was a good way to just kind of like get feedback, make it more interactive. And I like that. I just don't like the aspect of always having to repost it, keeping up with things. Child, so we scrapping the question of the day, but we're replacing it with a new segment called Let Me Tell You Something. And it's pretty much just going to be a time for me to share something that has inspired me, encouraged me, something that I came across that I want to share, because sharing is caring, or just something fun that I want to talk about, something that's going on TV, just something lighthearted at times, but it's just going to be a time of just kind of having like a little bit of kiki before we get into like the heavy stuff, okay? So I hope that you all are excited about season 5. This season is going to be heavy on really pursuing the things that we are called to, the things that we are supposed to be doing, the things that we should have been doing, but really just being intentional about pursuing the things that God has told us to, that He has called us to, and that He ultimately created us for.
But first,
girl, let me tell you something. All right, so for our first, let me tell you something. I came across this post by the single woman on Instagram, and it said, to the woman I was, I love you. To the woman I am, I'm proud of you. And to the woman I'll be, I'm excited for you. And I love that because I feel like I've always said that I think it's really important to be kind to the version of yourself who is still becoming, and to remind yourself to give grace to the version of you as you are on this journey to becoming the woman who you always wanted to be. And I feel like a lot of times we can get to a place where we're so focused on wanting to get to the next. We want to be in a better space. We want to be in a different space. We're chasing goals, dreams, all those things. And there's nothing wrong with being ambitious, but in the meantime, we can lose sight of who we've been, who we are, and how everything that we've learned in those seasons are ultimately preparing us for who we're going to be. And so I love this because it was just a reminder as I think back to Angel in her 20s, Angel in high school. It was just kind of like this just like little heartwarming feeling of like, I do love you, girl. Like you ran me through it, but I love you. And I'm proud of the woman who I've become now. And just being able to think about how nothing is wasted. I can't say that enough. Nothing is ever wasted. There are things that I've done, there are things that I've encountered, there are things that didn't go as planned. And I can look now and see how every single one of those things still worked out in my favor in the long run. Every single thing, even the ways that I thought that I had messed up my purpose, even the ways that I thought that the things that I didn't think that I could come back from, I can look back on them now and see how it all worked together for my good. And I can look back at the old version of me and say, I love you, even though you was a mess, sis, like, and still a mess at times. But like you did the most sometimes. But I love you because I learned from that who I am today. Even as I'm striving to be better, as I'm striving to grow, to heal, I'm proud of the woman that I am. And to also think about how all of that combined, the past and the current, I'm excited for my future and I'm excited about what the next version of me, like what all will come of that too. So I wanted to share that. That's not, let me tell you something for today. I wanted to share that because I just thought that that was, it was just a sweet and like much needed reminder to be kind to all versions of ourselves, because obviously the version that you are now, you're here because you have more information, more experience than you did in your 20s, in your teens. Like when you ain't know no better, you was messing up. You have more knowledge now and wisdom, so you know better and you are better. And so I just wanted to share that for the girl. Let me tell you something. And so with that, today we are talking about being poured out. And just to give you all a little backstory to understand how we got here. So as I have been praying throughout the beginning of this year, one of the things that just keeps coming up in my prayers is, God, I want to live a life that is poured out. And every time I said that, you know how like when you pray and when you say something, you get that little like, ooh, feeling. And it's like your spirit's confirming something. And every single time I would say, God, I want to live a life that is poured out, I would get that little ooh feeling. And I'm like, okay, God, like I'm listening, I'm locked in, I really want to be who you've called me to be. And I really want to be intentional about pursuing purpose this year and really following after the things that you have called me to, and not allowing excuses or distractions to be a reason to not live a life that is poured out. I've always said that one of my greatest fears is wasted potential. And I don't want to ever have a conversation with God where he looks at me and says, I put this in you. I gave you this gift. I gave you this talent, and you ain't do anything with it. I want to make sure that as I'm living this life, that I truly am leaving nothing on the table, that I really am being in a position where I am utilizing every gift that I have, every talent that I have, that I'm pouring all of that out so that when I'm gone from this earth, that I do truly feel like I lived out my purpose. I lived out my calling. I lived a life that was truly poured out with nothing left. So in thinking about this idea of being poured out, I want to share some things that has really stuck with me over these last couple of months in hopes that it encourages you as well. And the first thing that God really hit me with was, as I have been thinking about what is it that I'm supposed to be doing in this season? Like, what is it that I'm supposed to be focused on? How am I supposed to be serving others? How should I be showing up for my podcast community? Just thinking about what is it that I need to be focused on? What are the things that I need to do? I found myself in a space where it was like, I didn't know where to start. I didn't really know what it was that I was supposed to be focusing on. I wasn't really sure if I was supposed to do this. Should I do that? And something that God hit me with was, Angel, you're not stuck. You're just scared to start. And I was like, first of all, That's a little loud. Right? I'm gonna need you to bring that down a couple of notches. But it was the reality of you're not stuck. It's not that you don't know where to start, is that you are afraid to start again. You don't know what that's gonna look like. You're also in the space of trying to figure out how it's gonna look in comparison to other people's podcasts, other people showing up on social media. And God's like, I don't need you to look like someone else. I didn't create you to be a clone. I created you to be who I created you to be so that you can have influence and that you can have impact to the people who are attached to your purpose. And I needed to be reminded of that because I had been sitting on starting the podcast again because I didn't know where to start. And I had said in season 4 that I was going to start the podcast back in January. Clearly, here we are in March, and that's my business. And also, that was my conviction because I realized that I kept saying that I was stuck when it's like, it's not a matter of you being stuck. You just need to start. And I want to encourage you with that because for some of you, you feel like you don't know where to start. You feel like you don't know what to do, but you can feel the pressing. You can feel that there is something that you're supposed to be doing in this season. You can tell that there is something that, and I want to be very clear as far as clarifying this, because when I say it's something you're supposed to be doing in this season, doing is not always a reflection of starting a business, starting a podcast, writing a book, all of those things. Like, yes, that's cool. That's amazing. But also doing something can very well be you getting your mental health together, you starting your spiritual journey, you starting your physical journey, you starting a healing journey on the inside. I want to be clear about that because sometimes we can feel like if it's not something that requires an announcement, that it's not good enough or it's not big enough. Listen, if it is something that is going to propel you in your destiny, it doesn't matter if you got to announce it or not. It doesn't matter if people don't feel like it's a big deal. It's a big deal because you are doing something to better yourself. And I want to encourage you all in that because I know that sometimes it can feel insignificant what you're doing, especially when you start comparing it to what someone else is doing. Your journey is specific to you. And what you have to understand is a lot of times we can get caught up in comparing our journey to someone else's, but the reality is you need to be where you are. You need to take the path that you are on. You need to go on your journey in the way that you do because there are other people who are like you. There are other people who need to see someone who looks like them. There's other people who need to see someone who thought that they couldn't do it or they felt discouraged or they were comparing themselves, who can get on the other side of it and say, hey girl, I got up and I did this and I didn't know what I was doing, but I was able to get to the other side of it. And I think that that's an important part for us to understand because a lot of times the hiccup with us starting is that we feel like, well, everybody is doing this. We start doubting ourselves. We start questioning, and we have all of these excuses and reasons as to why we cannot do the thing that God has told us to do. When in reality, you're not stuck. You're just scared to start. And for some of you, you're scared to start again. And when I say start again, because you tried before and it didn't work out. I didn't say it failed, but it didn't work out then. And that was a thing for me as well, because there's something that I'm pursuing for the second time now. And there is like that fear of, well, I tried this before and it ain't work out that time. So I don't want to try it again. And then it doesn't go all the way through. But also understand there's some things that we did try to do prematurely. We can acknowledge that. But there's also sometimes there was some trial and error that you had to go through initially. So when you try it the second time, you have more knowledge now. You have more wisdom. You know what to do and what not to do. You know what corrections need to be made. So that's not a failure because it sets you up for when you go to try again, that you know what you're doing. You have more insight than you did last time. And I want to encourage those of you who are in a space where you are trying something again. You felt like you started your health journey and you fell off at some point. You started your spiritual journey and you fell off some point. And who told you that you can't start again? Like, whoever told you that if you don't get it right the first time, that you can't try it a second time, a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh time if you need to? We have to get out of our own way and get out of our head and stop allowing ourselves to be convinced that because I messed up this time, I'm never going to be able to do it. No, there's nothing wrong with starting over. There's nothing wrong with trying again. And hear this, there's nothing wrong with failing. There's nothing wrong with trying something and failing and it not being right because you learn from it. And I want us to be encouraged enough to know that even if I mess up, even if I don't get it right, even if it doesn't go the way it's planned, I can still try again. And I have to start somewhere. So as I'm encouraging myself in this, I want to encourage you to know that you can start again. Even when the failure felt catastrophic, even when the failure felt like you could never come back from it, you can always start again. I love the fact that God does not use perfect people. He does not use the people who get it right every single time or even the first time. And I love that, one, because it reminds us that we need him, right? If we were perfect and we could do everything by ourselves, we wouldn't need God. We'd be out here a hot mess still, but we wouldn't need God. There's something about the humility of messing up, the humility that comes with messing up, the humility that comes with not getting it right and then figuring it out. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing that you have to feel ashamed about in that. So I'm sharing this with you as I had to share with myself. You can start again. You can start and you can start again. And your starting point, it may not be right the first time. And guess what? That's okay. You can always figure it out as you go. One of the things that I stand by is everything is figure outable, okay? Everything is figure outable. There is nothing that you will face that you won't ultimately be able to figure out. But sometimes it's going to take a little bit longer. Sometimes it's going to be an answer or a solution that you really didn't think that's how it's going to end up being. But everything is figure outable. You just have to take the time and go through the process. We always want to skip to the end, but there's something about the journey. There's something that is so powerful about the journey because there's things that you learn in the journey. There's things that you take away from the journey that prepares you for the next journey that awaits you. And I don't want us to be women who we get so focused on the end result that we don't enjoy the process. We don't enjoy the journey. And listen, y'all know I know. Don't nobody want to go through the process. The process is typically where you're pruned. The process is typically where you learn. The process is typically where you fail, where you have trial and error. But it's in the process that shapes and molds you. It's in the process that you build character. It's in the process that you heal. It's in the process that you learn to let go certain mindsets that you have carried throughout your life that cannot go along into this next journey. Don't lose sight of the end game and the end goal, but also with that in mind, but you also don't want to be in a position where you're so heavily focused on the end game that you completely forget to enjoy the process and to enjoy the journey because there's something for you in that too. I think we've been somewhat trained to believe that the fulfillment aspect is just when you get to the end. But there's something in every single step of your journey. And you may not, it may not always feel good. You might not always get the butterflies and the cute feelings and all of that that's attached with what you get when you get to the end. But there's something in every single part of the process. And I don't want you to lose sight of that when you're just focused on the end game or focused on the end goal because there's something in the journey. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is something that my pastor actually brought up in one of his sermons a couple of months ago. And it was the question, are you the best kept secret? And it wasn't in the sense of like, are you like the best kept secret? Don't nobody know like how amazing you are? It wasn't that. It was more so of, are you hiding what God has placed on the inside of you? Are you hiding your light? Are you hiding the thing that you're supposed to be doing? Are you hiding the thing that you're supposed to be doing that would change this world, that would impact your community, that would impact your environment? And this is an important question for you to answer for yourself because there are some of you who have been sitting on gifts, who have been sitting on talents that are necessary and specific to the environment that you are in. And you may not even realize it, but there are things that are on the inside of you that you have not even tapped into yet, or that you may be even unaware of. But I believe that you do know. I believe you know that there's like a tugging on the inside of you. This is what I've learned about purpose. You cannot have something on the inside of you that God has called you to, that He has created you for. And let me be clear, He has created you for something. You can't have that on the inside of you and not feel this tension when you are not operating in it. Even when you may not exactly know fully what your purpose is, when you are in a space where you know that there's something that you should be doing, you know that there's something that you should be working on, something you should be producing, creating, whatever it might be, that thing is going to wrestle with you. And my prayer in this season is that you will wrestle until you get to the point of where you have to allow it to come out. Because some of you really have become the best kept secret that it shouldn't be a secret. There are literally people who need what is on the inside of you. There are people who need for you to be poured out specifically in this season, because there are people in your environment. There are people in your community. There are people who are specific to you. And I'm not even speaking solely on a spiritual sense. Like, there are people who need your encouragement. There are people who need you to be their hairstylist. There are people who need you to be who you are and to operate in the things that God has called you to, because there is impact there. Because what it is that He's placed on the inside of you, it may seem like it's not important. It may seem like it's very insignificant in comparison to what other people do. But the impact and the influence that you would have if you would just be obedient and walk in the thing that He has been calling you to, you have no idea how transformational that could be for people. You have no idea, by you actually walking in your calling and walking in the things that God has called you to, you have no idea how that could be transformative for the people that are simply attached to you. And I want to encourage you in that, because sometimes we feel like nobody cares. We feel like nobody sees us. We feel like nobody would listen. We feel like nobody wants to listen. And I want to encourage you to know there are people who need what is on the inside of you, and you have to get out of your head. You have to get out of your own head and stop allowing yourself to believe the lies that it's not good enough, or you're not good enough, that you're not qualified, that you're not ready. There's always going to be some excuse that you can come up with to not do what God told you to do. But what would happen if you just said yes? What would happen if you said, I'm going to live a life that is poured out, even if that makes me uncomfortable, even if that requires me to step into uncharted territory, even if that puts me in a position where I have to do something that I've never done before, where I have to talk to people that I've never talked to before, even if I have to do something that is unconventional or goes against the norm. I want to be poured out. I want to be the one who doesn't allow what God has put on the inside of me to just be dormant in this season. I don't want to be the one that it's like, I have these gifts, these talents, these things, this vision, all of these things that God has placed on the inside of me, and I just allow it to sit here and be the world's best, the best kept secret that don't nobody know about. And it's like, who is missing out because you're a secret? And why? And what for? Like, really ask yourself that question. Who is missing out on the very thing that they need because I'm choosing to remain a secret? When it's good, you want to tell people, like, you don't want it to be a secret. And it's not even coming from a place where you have to be prideful or boastful, but it's literally just you living and walking in the authenticity of who God created you to be. And like I said, some of you may feel like, well, it's not that I'm a secret. I'm trying to keep it a secret. I just don't know what to do, or I don't know how to use it. I don't know where to start with it. That's okay. Just start. Even if it's just writing down what your vision is, what it is that you feel like you're supposed to do, what it is that you feel like you're called to do, just write it down. We overcomplicate things, y'all. Just write it down. Just get it from your head out into the open and then just put one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, and truly just trust and believe that as he's giving you the vision, he's going to give you the instruction on how to fulfill it. He's not going to give you a vision and then allow you to fall flat on your face. He will give you the entire plan. And some of us feel like, well, I don't know how to do this because no one else in my family has done this. None of my friends have done this, whatever it might be. Maybe he's called you to be the blueprint. Have you considered that? Maybe he's called you to be the blueprint. So it's okay if you're the first one to do it. It's okay if you're the only one to do it, but don't allow yourself to be a secret in what it is that he's placed on the inside of you simply because you are scared to start. We're not doing that. Not on my watch, not in season 5, okay? All right. So lastly, this is one that I'm actually going to go into in depth in the next episode. So we're not going to talk about it in depth here, but I feel like it's relevant for the conversation. So I'm going to drop a little bit of it in here. Something that I came across, I was reading a devotion by Darius Daniels on the YouVersion app. I'll link it in the description box on YouTube and in my show notes for the podcast. So as I was reading this devotion that's focused on purpose and pursuing purpose, walking in your purpose, one of the things that he talked about is you have to identify your purpose blockers. So identify what are the things that are keeping things and or people, because that's a thing too, things and or people who are essentially purpose blockers. So these are essentially the things or people who are keeping you from fulfilling your purpose, who are keeping you from walking in the authenticity of who it is that God has created you to be. And I want to challenge you to think about, what are my purpose blockers? What is the reason, or what are the reasons that are keeping me from actually fulfilling and pursuing the things that God has called me to? And what is actually hindering me from living a life that is poured out, that I'm giving God everything that I have? I'm not going back and forth saying I'm going to do something and then not fulfilling it. What are the things? I want you to write it out, because it's one thing to feel like you have all these things in your head as to why you can't do this, why you can't do that. And it's easy to talk yourself out of it. But when you start writing down, what are the things that are essentially keeping me from being who it is that God created me to be and actually doing the things that he's created me to do? When you start writing those things out and you see it on paper, you see that probably all of the things that you're going to write down, they can be changed. They can be fixed. They can be corrected. I'm sure some of you may write procrastination, fear, doubt, resources, whatever it might be. All of these things are something that you can change. It's something that you can work on. It's something that you can correct. So I want you to take the time to think about, what are my purpose blockers? What are the things that are keeping me from actually walking in the authenticity of who God has created me to be? And what do I have control over? Because I know there are going to be some of you where it's like, well, I need money to do X, Y, or Z. Okay, I get that. Maybe you need money to publish your book. Have you started writing it though? Like you have to stop looking at the excuses to justify why you're not doing what you should be doing. And it's very easy to make an excuse versus acknowledging, hey, there's some things that I have to work on, and ultimately I'm the problem. It's me. Like, it's me. I'm the one that is the problem. And there are things that I can change so that I can get to the other side of the things that I feel like I'm stuck on, or the things that I feel like I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I need direction. I need clarity. Are you positioning yourself to get the clarity that you need? Are you positioning yourself to get the instruction that you need, or even to get the resources that you need? Because most of it be us. It's like we are the problem. Okay, we are the issue. So, like I said, next week I will go in more into depth on purpose blockers, but I want you this week, leading up to next Thursday, I want you to take the time to think about, what are the purpose blockers in my life right now? What are the things that are keeping me from walking in purpose? And we're going to break that thing down next week, okay? All right, I hope you all have an amazing week, and I'm so excited to jump into this season with you all. Until next time, don't forget, be whole, be healed, be authentic. Bye. Don't forget to share with a friend. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to A Change of Heart podcast. I hope you were encouraged, and please take a moment to share with a girlfriend. Also, I'd love to connect with you. You can follow me on Instagram at @AngelSharon_ and at A Change of Heart podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Angel Sharon. Have an amazing week, and until next time, don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic.